Good afternoon. This is Ramblin' Rusty. Last night, I invited a young lady come over and have popcorn here at Mary's house. Well, this young lady is 100.5 years old. She is good friends with Mary, and I've gotten to be good friends with her. When she came over, she told a little bit about her folks coming over here from Italy. And she had some documentation about them and even some papers showing which steamer they traveled over. Besides telling about that, she tells about her learning about Christ. She was raised a Catholic, and someone came in, was asking her, have you ever read the Bible? No, I've never read the Bible. So she started reading one of the Gideon Bibles. And so for the last 50-some years, she is a member of the Smith Creek Baptist Church. Anyway, I hope you enjoy her rambling on about different things. One of the things she talked about that she and her husband had bought a motel here in Newmarket. It was called the Battlefield Motel. So I hope you enjoy this vlog. I enjoyed listening to her. This is Ramblin' Rusty signing off from now. See you later. Oh yes, Mary had come to me sort of at the beginning of the recording of Yolanda and suggested I would come in from a different angle. I was rather stubborn. I says, no, I'll stay here. I'm all set up. And she was there in the frame and everything else. Well, I probably should have taken her advice because there's a lot of commotion going on in the background. One day I'll learn to listen to what the ladies tell me.
Let me talk about Italy. I do want to talk about Italy. Yeah, like I was going to do that last time. My purse is where? Yeah. But, Italy is well known for the lemons it produces. You know, we're used to lemons. They have lemons like that. So you know what they do? They have what they call limoncello. And that's limoncello in there in the shape of a boot. And it may have a little kick to it. It's lemon with maybe a little bit of alcohol, not much.
I see.
I don't know. I really never tasted it. But this is lemon. Lemon is the liquid. Because they have so many lemons, so some entrepreneur thought of this. Oh yeah, we'll just put some of it. It'll be a tourist catch. And I just love the boot. Although they did have like a miniature bottle with the same stuff in it.
And the boot is supposed to resemble what Italy looks like on the map?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks just like that, see?
Yeah.
It has the heel. And my parents came from, we'll say, on the Campania area, just about there. Right there. Not near Sicily, but not bad. Not far from Naples. It's in the company. I wouldn't say company. It's in the country. Campania means country.
Oh.
Because that's where all the vineyards are. And tomatoes. You know, they raise tomatoes. So that. And then I was going to show you this. And I picked this up, I guess, they would put cheese in there. And then they would go like this to guide the cheese.
Like Parmesan?
Yeah. Yeah, I always thought that was kind of cute. And then I had bought a miniature coffee pot like they use. I didn't take that with me. I guess in 1980s, I decided to research my parents' history in Italy. And because, see, in those days, they never talked about the old country. You know, when they came to America, it was just America, you know, just as it. And, but they would never talk about the little villages where they lived. So in 1980, I decided to do a research. But in order for me to get the results that I was looking for, I had to go to the National Archives in Philadelphia and also DC. But I still couldn't find what I was looking for. Then I learned that the mayor of New York, you know, there's what they call Ellis Island, which was a great port of entry into the country. And as a result of that, it's when I had a desktop computer at that time, and I was able to, do a lot of little research that way. But then I really hit pay dirt when I checked into Ellis Island, because now Ellis Island in the early 1800s is where the early we'll say immigrants came into this country. And the first ones they used were Germans, because they're very smart. Yeah. In fact, the little place I lived in Germantown was a suburb of downtown Philadelphia, and that was called Germantown because of the early influx of German people. And then the government opened up the European to the European countries like Italy, Poland, Ireland, those things. And from that point on is when everything came into shape. Now, I'll say in 1970, 1980, Ellis Island had been neglected for many, many years. It was just, it was a big mess because they never maintained it. Once the early immigrants came in, then they kind of let it go. They just, that was it. And that was, the Ellis Island's not far from the Statue of Liberty. Okay. And so there was a mayor in New York that was of Italian descent. And he wanted to restore this landmark that had been deteriorated so badly that it really needed a lot of renovation. But they didn't have enough money to do it. So what the mayor did, he said, if everybody would think about this, like if they want their mother or father on this wall of honor, then they would have to pay $100 for each person. So in order to get their name on the wall of honor. So now in New York, there's a wall of honor around the Ellis Island building, and my mother and father's name are on that wall of honor. Wall of honor, I should say. Wall of honor. As a result of that, then they gave me, I'll have to take this out of here. They gave me like a certificate, and this is, this is for my father. You could look it over, and it just says official certificate of registration. Now in Italy, they have hundreds of bata, so it's a and now this is one for my mother.
I believe it.
Carmela.
Yeah, and her name was Carmela.
Avellino.
Yeah, so I had to pay $100 for Carmela, $100 for yeah.
Bless you.
And then they gave me a certificate
Oh.
as being a donor. I'm the one that sort of initiated the program.
Does that say Yolanda?
Yeah, that's my real name, Yolanda.
Oh.
Uh-huh. Now, I understand in past history in Italy, there was a Princess Yolanda. So maybe I'm named after her, I don't know.
A queen now.
You might say that, huh? But after 100 you earn that. After 100 years old, you earn the title of queen.
Oh, I see. And
So
you're
it
100
went,
and a
it
half,
went a
right?
little further than that, because then I wanted to see the manifesto of a ship. And because this particular one I have is the manifest, and it shows my parents' name on it.
They were already married when they came here?
Well, that's not clear yet, because they were married, because I have a picture of them with the Italian style, the hat and all that. I would say they were married there in Italy, because I don't see any record of it in America.
But
So
they're
they had to
showing-
be married in Italy,
They
but
took
they
the same
traveled by themselves. My
Oh.
father came in first,
Oh.
and I guess he, figured out where he was going to go from New York. You always had, in those days, you had to have $50 to be able to make this. Well, $50 in those days was very, very hard to come by. So I saw on some of the records that there were many that only had $10. And even $10 was a lot of money. And then they had to say who sponsored them and where they were going. So it's not like they're doing today. These illegals, they come in our country and you don't know where they are. They're in your backyard and you don't know it, you know?
So they came on separate ships.
Yes, yeah. Now my father came in the port of Boston when they came in together. I mean that when he came in ahead of time. And then my mother came into Ellis Island. But I wanted them to be on that wall of honor, anyhow. So, so if you go to New York and you visit Ellis Island, you'll see their names
Do they
on the
still
wall
use
of
it?
honor. Yeah, so that's my story. I thought maybe you'd enjoy that. Oh, I have this to say. Then in 2004, my husband encouraged me to go back over to Italy and get in touch with some of the relatives that I had a address for. I was able to locate them. But prior to that, my first time when Joe went with me, he went there twice. When he went with me, and this is my mother's brother and his wife. He had been working out in the vineyards, and when he came into down where we were, he had like a stick over his shoulder with a bandana with a piece of bread and cheese in it. And that was his lunch. That's how they used to do it in those days. And he invited us to his house, and their house was very simple. They had maybe a kitchen on the first level, and then the second level had like a living room, bedroom, all in one.
They had no bathroom?
Yeah, they had one, but I don't remember that too good, whether it was inside. It probably, I would say it was inside there then. But the interesting thing about that was that that was the first time I had met this one brother, because my mother was one of 12.
Wow.
And I never knew that until I had a relative there, gave me a list of the names. And so did you see that? It's a little hard to see that.
What?
Yeah, that's the first one that came over. Then later on, she helped to sponsor her brother. And then there were other relatives that came in at a later date, which I have all their names listing the names and when they came in, where they went, and all those names that they had on it, I remembered from the time my mother would speak of them. My father was a very quiet man, very quiet. So my mother, she was the only girl. I know there was a lot of, the rest were all boys. There was yet another sister, but she died young. See, Philadelphia was, after they came into New York, then most of them settled in Philadelphia. And so I had some cousins because when her brother came in, he had a couple children. And then there was another relative connected with that. It gets really complicated, and I didn't, have that much knowledge to research it any further. But I was happy to just find that out, what I did find out, and that their names is on that wall of honor surrounding the Ellis Island building. Now, the last time I was there, that would have been like in 1990s, maybe 2001. They had computers all set up. That everything was on a computer, desktop computer, and I was able to locate that information. So it was quite challenging. I began my research in 1986. We sold the motel in 1976. So after 10 years, and then later on, I did a research on my husband's side, the Polish side, and found out his mother came from Warsaw, and his father came from Lendic, Russia, which was right on the borderline, but they didn't meet each other there. So actually they met in Philadelphia and married there. So, and in Philadelphia they have a section called Frankfurt, and the trains, like we have subway below ground, the trains are overhead. And in that area in Frankfurt, that's what you would see. Would have trains overhead, and then the trains would take you down to downtown Philadelphia. And it was a mode of transportation in that, in those days. I don't know if they call it elevated are still there. I don't know if they're still in existence. Probably so, because there's never enough room. As the people came in, the city expanded, and I assume that they're still above.
In Chicago they have that.
Pardon?
They have that in Chicago. They call it the L.
Oh, okay.
Short
yeah,
for
they do have that in
elevated.
Chicago?
Short for elevated. They call it the L.
The L for elevator. That's what they used to call it here.
Okay.
The L. And I haven't really went into that area on our yearly visits. We usually go outside of the Philadelphia proper into the suburbs, like Doylestown, Warminster. There's other places that I can't think of right now.
Cherry Hill.
Pardon?
Cherry Hill.
Yes, that too. Now Cherry Hill is New Jersey, though.
Oh.
Are you familiar with Philly at all?
A little bit.
Oh, you did live there?
No, I didn't live there. I visited.
Oh, you visited, yeah. Cherry Hill, then, in those days, you could get from Philadelphia to the seashore, which would be the closest one would be Atlantic City.
Yeah.
You could get back and forth, one way would take you less than an hour. Now, when you do that trip, it would take you at least 2.5, 3 hours to go because of all the cars and all the people that usually go down for the weekend, or in the summer months they go down for weeks at a time. Now, if you went a little further, you went into Wildwood.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Wildwood, I had a cousin who settled in, they were originally Philadelphia, on my husband's side, I have to say, and then went into North Wildwood, as they called it, and they bought businesses there, motel businesses, and they were quite successful. In those days, it was like mom and pop. So then when Joe decided we needed to buy a motel, we checked out whether we would want to settle at the seashore or other places. So we considered the seashore. We looked at a few motels there. We also considered Maryland. There's a university there. There was a motel there that we looked at in Maryland. We were almost ready. We were ready to sign, and then we decided not to. I guess it still wasn't the right place for us. So Joe looked at the Philadelphia Inquirer, which was a well-known newspaper, and he saw this two motels for sale, one in Woodstock and one in Newmarket. So we checked out the Woodstock one. Beautiful living quarters. In those days, the living quarters were like a house. Had 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, the one in Woodstock. And then when they realized that I had 4 children, they backed out of it. And they didn't want it back. They were, they were elderly. They didn't want it back because they figured that we got so many odds against us, we'll never make it. No, I take that back. Yes, they did. They would have been for the first mortgage. We had to do that. That's right. So then we decided, well, we'll look at the one in Newmarket, which was then called the Battlefield Motel, and that's what it was when I bought it. It was a AAA facility, and that had beautiful living quarters, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a living room, a dining room. It's just like a house. And so that's the one we selected. And then, of course, we had mortgages there. And so my husband had to learn a new trade of putting up aluminum siding. And something he never did before, but he had a buddy who was already in that business, and the buddy trained him on how to do it. And so they would go up to Scarsdale, New York, and do these large 3-story homes, like 2,000 square feet, 3,000 square feet, 3 levels. And so...
You mean your husband would be gone working in New York?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, he would leave Newmarket, go up to, he'd meet his buddy in Philadelphia. His buddy was in Philly, and he knew the business. And then from Philly, they went up to Scarsdale, New York, where all these huge houses were, which they were at that point then, at that time, they got tired of painting all the time.
And this was before vinyl siding, I guess.
Yes, right. And then the vinyl siding came in.
Almost.
He would get up on these high ladders on the 3rd story of these huge homes and put these storm windows up. They were big, it was big business then, putting up a storm window. He said the storm windows were bigger, taller than he was.
Wow.
But he did it. Because he didn't want to lose the motel, so we would have lost our life savings. I'm sorry?
The motel didn't make enough to support itself.
No, that's right. It didn't make enough. I had to take care of it. I had 2 mortgages and a 3rd one that had to be paid off in 1 year. The 3rd one was the real estate man who decided to give us a year to pay him instead of paying it up front. So we had to get that one paid off, and then the first and the second. I had 2 mortgages there.
So the real estate broker owned the property?
No, he just had a lien on it.
I see.
You know, and in those days you didn't even have to have it on paper. You know, we're talking now in 1960. Now it's altogether different, but well, we made it. Through God's help. That was the only way. God gave him good health, gave me good health, and I knew how to work because I had to help clean the rooms, run the office, take care of the family, cook a meal. But you do what you have to do. In those days when I was running the office too, I would have a salesman would come in from Baltimore, Maryland, who was a representative of the, like a salesman. He would go to the poultry plants, because we had about 3 within proximity, and so we would go into these conversations, and he'd say, spiritual conversations. And he said, "Did you ever read a Bible?" I said, "No, I was born and raised Catholic. I had it. I mean, I was a staunch Catholic. I just went to church every time they had a service. I confessed my sins to the priest. There's no mediator between God and man except Christ Jesus."
Amen.
Amen. And so we would, every time he would come in, maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month, we would always talk about spiritual things. And he said, "Well, why don't you pick up one of these Bibles you had in your room?" He said, "Did you ever do that?" I said, "No, I never did." And he said, "Well, why don't you do that?" So as a result of that, I did read one of the Bibles that were placed there by the Gideons. And I think early one morning I felt like God was talking to me, and I realized that my spiritual condition, I wasn't saved. And from that point on, then I tried to locate I tried the Lutheran church. I was not, I said, too much like Catholic church. And then I had someone that I bumped into told me about this Bible preaching church in New Market called Smith Creek Regular Baptist Church that was established before the Constitution was written. That's how far back that church goes. And it's just not doctrine, but just the Word of God is preached. So I've been a member there since 1961, because I was saved in 1961. I was only down there 1 year.
When did you sell the motel?
In 1976.
Wow.
So we had a good 16 years. You get burned out. That's what happened. It's like a 24-hour job, you might say. Because we would be, even during the night, when my husband was
Ring
here,
the bell.
Yeah, you ring the bell. If he was home, he would take care of the night business. And of course, I would be there. I would take care of the night business. But those years, you were safe. It's not like it is today.
Do you remember who owned the motel before you?
Oh, yes. Well, that's interesting too. To the person we bought it from, his name was Mr. Nicholas. Okay, so Mr. Nicholas, a very sharp man, and he did a lot of the renovations in that motel. But I think it only had 6 units at that time. He was the one that added wings on each side and then made bigger living quarters. because he lived there and operated it. So actually, he held the first mortgage. So then he sold it to a gentleman. He looked like he was about 60, 65, about that. Well, he held the second mortgage. All right, yeah. Now let me back up. See that Mr. Nicholas? Guess where he moved to? The house right close to the motel. Even today, it's still there. It's a white house next to the motel on the north end of it. So he stayed in that house until we paid a good portion of the money back. And then he sold it to this elderly gentleman who maybe he was too old to run it. So actually I bought it from Mr. Wilkins. He was the second owner. Well, I'll be 101 in June.
In June, okay.
Can you believe that?
I do believe it.
I would never think I'd last that long.
Praise
I said,
God.
why am I here so long? I don't want to be
Well, you're
here.
doing well, so that's okay.
Pardon?
You're doing well, so praise
Yes,
God.
that's the main thing.
Mhm.
Yes, he's been really good to me. God has been good. I said, he's the reason that I'm still around. Maybe he'd be a testimony to my family. I don't know. But,
Your daughter will take you to Italy?
well, I go with this one daughter. She loves Italy. Oh, she loves Italy. Now, I was supposed to go last year, but then this was before I broke my hip. It just seemed like, was it last year? I mean, years go by so fast. It was the year before. Was the year before. That would be 22.
This is 25.
Yes. All right. So that was in 22. So 2022. I had my plane ticket paid for with $1,000, and so I could tell that I wasn't going to be able to do it. My health was, maybe I was going through something with the thyroid. I was having problems with the thyroid. And that's been my major problem always. Well, every time I was sick, it was through a thyroid medication that I had side effects from. And you don't feel well if that is not working right, or if you're overdosed. I was overdosed. I was like on 90 milligrams. And here I am. I'm in my 90s. On 90 milligrams. No wonder I wasn't feeling good. It created what they call palpitations. And as a real result of that, my heart wasn't performing like it should. It was underactive. Okay? It was an underactive beat. As a result of the thyroid medication, the high dosages, but they kept giving it to me. I was knowledgeable. I know a little bit more about it now. And as a result of that, I had to have a pacemaker. I didn't really have to. If I wanted to be half dead all the time, I could go do it, not have it. But the pacemaker, I've had about 2 years now. And it's set on 70 beats a minute. And you'd be surprised how accurate that is. Now, if in the event that ever went below 70, then I would need attention. And then they would know in the office, because of course it's whatever you call that. They monitor it in the office. If something's wrong, they'll call me. Pardon?
Telecommunication.
Yes, I guess that's it. Because I have a little instrument, and then the tube, a wire comes out that has a little thing about so big, and that shows the beat. Shows my heartbeat. I don't pay attention to that.
You can read it outside your skin.
Pardon?
You can read it outside your skin.
Right underneath.
But you can read the beats per minute.
No, I could see this little light.
Oh, I see.
That's attached to the base station.
It shines through your skin,
That the pacemaker is under the skin.
and the light is under the skin too.
No,
No,
It has a
that's
le-
attached to the
it
base.
sends it to the
There's
base.
like an
and
extra
you read
wire
it from the
Oh.
to
base.
that base, and it has a little thing like that. I can see the light.
The base is on your person?
No.
No, it's sitting like next to my bed. So they have me in there every so often, and I even said, well, can you raise it a little bit? You know, increase the beat, because I wanted more energy. Well, they let me do it, but they said, no, let's go back to what it was, 70 beats a minute, 70 beats a minute. And I never had a problem with it. So,
You ready for some popcorn?
yeah, but not too much, so.
All right.
Okay, all right. Oh, I like that. I could add something to that also about the Gideons. I guess about within the last year, I knew that the veterinarian, Dr. What's his name? Right, he lives on my street. Teeter.
Okay.
He's a veterinarian by trade. A very good one, I understand. Well, he's also a Gideon. Gideons are a businessman who concentrate on the spiritual things, like getting a Bible in motel rooms and things like that. And so I happened to call him, and I had this inclination, I have to say, to want to do a testimony before I passed.
Right.
So I called him up, and I said, would you be interested in my giving you a testimony about the Gideons and the work about the Bible? And he said, well, that would be really interesting. He said, I'll talk it over. So then they were in unison. So then we met at the Valley Central Church in New Market, next to Smith Creek Road. And there were other business, they were all business people. And then they also had a representative from Richmond, represented the Gideons. So I gave a talk similar to what I gave, and then they put me into, I gave a testimony years back. And with that testimony with the Traditions restaurant in Harrisonburg, I did it twice there, and then the Mimsland Inn in Luray. I think there was 3, and maybe another one. Right off the bat, I don't think about it. And so anyhow, at this last Gideon meeting, they had a representative from Richmond and another person out of the area, because they wanted to hear my testimony. And so I felt like I wanted to do that as a memento from the time I was saved, we'll say. I gave the first talk. I gave them the first talk. I have that written down, the years that I did that. And then they're here also to do it again. Oh, you've been listening?
I have a fruit bowl. Would you like to have a little fruit with your popcorn?
Yeah. Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. So anyway, with the Gideon group, so when was the last time you gave your talk?
Well, that was what, about within the last year, I think. I have it written down. In fact, I have a folder, and I have a copy of the original article that they had shown about me. They had taken a picture of me in front of the motel. And I'm talking about, well, I'm not sure whether it's 1980 or what it was. I lost track of that. I have a picture. I should have brought that with me.
Well, that is neat.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. Because I have a story to tell.
That's right.
I feel like that, you know. And in fact, when I pass, You know how they always have a eulogy?
Right.
I don't want that. I'm not going to have that. What I'm going to have is I pass, I'll have something written out about my testimony about being born again. That's what it is. See, because then if you eulogies, you know, well, they're all going to say something good about you. Well, I'm not good. So I had made up my mind that I want to give my testimony for Jesus.